From now on, you'll cover your own rent, Mom said, closing the cupboard like a judge lowering a gavel. My suitcase zipper answered her. My name is Juniper Hale. I'm 27. Tell me, when does a dream stop being useless and start being the only thing keeping you from disappearing? I folded my sketchbooks between denim and t-shirts, slid pencils into a glasses case, and pocketed the bronze key I'd worn on a chain since high school, the one I swore would someday open my own studio door. Don't dramatize it, Mom added, wiping an invisible crumb from the counter. Dialogue decoy from the living room. Your sister pays her way, she called, like fairness was a neat stack of receipts. I breathed through the citrus sting of dish soap and the colder sting of her eyes. Outside, the hallway smelled like overwatered plants. The chair by the elevator looked like it was waiting for me to sit. I didn't. I balanced my life on two wheels of a squeaky suitcase and texted nothing to no one. On the stairs, Mrs. Klein paused with her grocery bag. Moving day, she asked. I said, growing day, and surprised myself. The first night in the sublet, the walls were bare as a paused breath. I placed the bronze key on the windowsill. A small sun in a sea of city lights. Mom's last message glowed on my phone. You made your choice. I typed back 3 times and erased 3 times. I fell asleep to buses breathing under my window and the soft scratch of my own doubt. Days later, Dad texted, "The rent is due. Where are you?" A different tone, clipped like a bill. The same house that told me to carry my weight now needed me to hold theirs. My thumb hovered. The bronze key caught a blade of morning and flared against the glass. Here was the quiet arithmetic. When a door closes behind you, it becomes proof you had the courage to walk through it. And for the first time, I realized the key I were never belonged to their house at all. It belonged to the one I was building inside me. Dad's message glared at me from the phone screen. Black letters on white, like courtroom ink. The rent is due. Where are you? The irony tasted metallic. Only days ago, I'd been called a burden. Now I was an expected savior. I didn't reply. Instead, I touched the bronze key on the sill, its edge warm from sunlight. My scarf, deep green, frayed at the ends, lay across my lap. I'd worn it since college, through failed shows and midnight sketches. It had become a witness to my quiet resilience. I scrolled back through messages. Mom's, from now on, you'll cover your own rent. Dad's, where are you? Not one word about my dreams or whether I was eating or if my bed had sheets. Just numbers, bills, obligations. It struck me. To them, my worth had always been transactional. The city hummed outside. A saxophone floated from the corner. Broken notes stitched by wind. I breathed them in, steadier than my thoughts. For years, I had begged for validation, like applause after a performance no one attended. But here, in this narrow room, I began to see the outline of another stage, one where I didn't need their ticket. The phone buzzed again. A second text, colder. If you ignore this, don't bother coming back. I laughed quietly. Not cruel, not loud. Just the laugh of someone realizing the rules had already changed. They were still counting on me. I was no longer counting on them. I pulled the scarf tighter and looked at the bronze key glowing against glass. A door was waiting, but it wasn't theirs. And the rent they spoke of? Soon, they'd learn that debt has more than one meaning. The phone kept buzzing, each vibration a small earthquake against the rickety nightstand. Dad's impatience was clockwork, predictable as the tick of the wall clock in that hollow apartment. I let it ring into silence, then picked up my sketchbook. My hand trembled, but the pencil moved anyway, lines pouring out like confession, not art. On the page, I drew the kitchen table from memory, Mom's hand slamming an envelope down, her voice sharp as paper. In the margin, I scribbled words she once hissed. Your sister doesn't waste time chasing fairy tales. The graphite smudged beneath my palm. My scarf brushed the paper, streaking gray across the empty chair I'd drawn. I left it there, the absence more honest than any portrait. A ping. New message. Juniper, We can't cover this month without you. You know what's at stake." That wasn't a father's plea. It was a landlord's demand dressed in family skin. My throat tightened. For years, I'd begged them to see me, to come to one exhibit, one show, one night of me on stage under broken lights. They never came. But now, when their finances trembled, suddenly I was essential. Dialogue decoy from the thin wall, my neighbor muttering through a phone. "She'll learn or she'll leave." His voice had nothing to do with me, yet it echoed my whole childhood. I pressed my palm flat against the scarf. The fabric smelled faintly of turpentine and city air. I whispered, "Not this time." The bronze key glimmered as a car's headlights swept past the window, and in that moment I saw it differently, not just as a dream, but as leverage. If they wanted me only as currency, I would show them the cost of cashing in. You. Morning seeped in pale and reluctant, painting the sublet walls in muted gold. My phone blinked with unread messages. 3 from Dad, 1 from Mom, all variations of the same theme. Help us. Don't abandon family. You owe us. That word, "oh," sat heavy in my chest. I wrapped my scarf around my neck, the threads catching on my jawline, grounding me. The bronze key winked from the windowsill, as though reminding me of a truth I kept trying to forget. I had something they couldn't claim. I opened my laptop, its hum a fragile heartbeat in the silence. On the screen glowed a half-finished grant application I'd abandoned months ago, back when their voices drowned mine. Unstable income, unrealistic goals, Mom had said. But now, with their rent hanging like an execution notice, those same unrealistic goals had become my way out. I filled in the last box. Under motivation, I wrote, because survival should not require erasing yourself. My fingers hesitated over submit. For a second, I saw Mom's pursed lips, Dad's furrowed brow, the way they'd shake their heads at my stubbornness. Then I hit send. Another message buzzed. "Juniper, answer us. We can't keep the lights on without your share." Lights. I thought of the stage lights I used to stand beneath, how they burned hot but felt like proof I existed. My family's house had never given me that. From the other side of the wall, the neighbor's radio whispered a lyric. "Don't go back where you were broken." It wasn't meant for me, but it sank deep. I picked up the scarf, looped it once tighter, and slipped the bronze key into my pocket. If my family wanted rent, they were about to learn that I no longer paid in silence. And what I had to offer wasn't money at all. It was truth, sharpened waiting. I stared at their messages until the screen dimmed, like even the phone was tired of carrying their demands. My chest ached, not from guilt, but from clarity finally cutting through years of fog. That afternoon, I walked into the cafe 2 blocks down, scarf trailing behind me like a banner. The place smelled of burnt espresso and wet umbrellas. A corkboard near the counter sagged with flyers, tutoring, guitar lessons, dog walking. I pinned my own sheet there, portraits and illustrations, commissions open. My name in bold, my number at the bottom. It wasn't grandeur, but it was mine. As I sipped bitter coffee, the phone buzzed again. "Mom, this time. We raised you, fed you, clothed you. The least you can do is step up now." That line, "the least you can do," scraped like sandpaper. The least had always been enough for them when it came to me. The least encouragement, the least belief, yet the most criticism. Dialogue decoy from the table beside me. "You don't owe them your soul, you know," a stranger said into her laptop headset. Her words weren't meant for me, but they landed like prophecy. I closed my eyes, fingers curling around the bronze key in my pocket. For the first time, I imagined turning it, not in their front door, but into a new lock entirely, one that had nothing to do with their rules. By evening, an email pinged into my inbox. "We've reviewed your grant application. Let's discuss further." My throat went dry. A possibility, fragile but real. The phone vibrated again, more desperate now. Dad's words bled across the screen. "Don't think you can just walk away from family obligations." I slid the phone face down. Obligations, I thought, go both ways. and theirs had expired long before mine ever began. The bronze key grew hot in my hand, as if it had been waiting for this exact moment to remind me. Doors can be locked, but they can also be closed for good. Night fell heavy, the city humming like a restless orchestra outside my window. The phone, face down, buzzed once more before slipping into silence. I let it die there. I lit the small candle I kept on the sill, its flame wobbling like a nervous secret. The scarf hung from the chair, threads catching the glow. It had followed me through disappointments, but tonight it looked like a witness preparing to testify. I opened the new email again, reading each line slowly, savoring the invitation. Your vision intrigues us. Let's meet. No one had written that to me before. Not teachers, not family, always rejection slips, eye rolls, dismissals. But here was possibility, written in a stranger's belief. The phone finally rang. Not a text, an actual call. Dad's name lit up, bright as a warning. I didn't answer, but his voicemail came anyway, crackling with practiced authority. Juniper, you don't get to just walk out and abandon us. You'll regret this. Family doesn't betray family. His words pressed against my ribs. I whispered back into the empty room. No, family doesn't exploit family. Dialogue decoy through the thin wall. My neighbor's laughter, sudden and raw. A reminder that joy existed elsewhere, free of conditions. I leaned closer to the flame, the bronze key heavy in my palm. I realized the motif was complete. The key wasn't to unlock anything back there. It was to lock that house behind me forever. The candle flickered, casting the scarf's shadow long and strange across the wall. And in that stretching darkness, I saw it clearly. Revenge wouldn't be fire or shouting. It would be silence, success, and a refusal to fund their neglect anymore. I blew the candle out. Smoke curled like punctuation. Tomorrow I would answer them, not with money but with truth. Morning cracked open with a pale blue light that settled on the scarf draped over the chair. I touched it briefly, its threads cool and steady, like a pulse I could borrow. The bronze key clinked against my phone as I lifted it, their unanswered texts stacked, like unpaid invoices. Mom had written last, "We sacrificed so much for you. Now you turn your back when we need you most." The word sacrifice throbbed. They had given me food, yes, a roof, yes, but never safety for my dreams. That wasn't sacrifice. That was survival, packaged as generosity. I typed a reply, erased it. Tried again, erased again. What I finally wrote was different, simple. I can't pay your rent. Stop asking. Start remembering what love is. I didn't hit send. Not yet. Instead, I opened the grand email again. Attached was a calendar invite, an interview tomorrow afternoon. My heart thrummed like a snare drum. If this door opened, even a crack, it could be the beginning of my own foundation. Dialogue decoy from the cafe downstairs, barista shouting, "One small mercy latte!" The phrase startled me. Mercy, small or large, had never been their currency. The phone buzzed again. Dad this time. If you refuse us, don't bother coming back. You're not part of this family. His words carved clean through. But instead of bleeding, I felt lighter. A boundary drawn by their own hand. I slid the bronze key into my pocket, looped the scarf around my neck, and stepped toward the door. The silence in the room seemed to lean forward, watching. As the lock clicked behind me, I realized I hadn't lost a family. I had shed a chain, and what they mistook for betrayal was simply me choosing to exist on my own terms. The street below roared with buses, horns chatter. For the first time, I didn't flinch at the noise. I walked into it. And tomorrow, when they reached again for my silence as currency, I'd finally show them what it costs. The cafe smelled of cinnamon and ink, its windows fogged from the chill pressing outside. I sat at the corner table, scarf loose around my shoulders, the bronze key turning slow circles in my palm. Tomorrow's interview lingered in my chest like a drumbeat. But tonight, their voices still chased me. Another message flashed across the phone. final notice. If you won't help, don't expect a place here ever again. The words were cold, but they weren't new. My family had always used exile as punishment. Only this time I realized banishment only stings if you still want to belong. I opened my sketchbook. Instead of drawing faces, I drew walls, cracked, leaning, collapsing under the weight of too many demands. In the corner, I sketched a door with no handle. The scarf brushed across the page, smudging the pencil lines into shadows. It looked like truth. Their house had always been a prison, not a home. Dialogue decoy from the counter. A woman telling the barista, "Sometimes letting go is the rent you pay for peace." My chest tightened. Her words weren't mine, but they felt like they could have been. I pulled my phone closer. For the first time, I began to type without hesitation. I won't be paying your rent. I won't be returning to that house. My worth isn't measured in bills I cover for you. It's in the life I'm finally building without you. I read it twice, 3 times, then press send. The message flew out, a stone breaking glass. No undoing it now. The screen glowed, waiting for their reply. But silence spread instead, vast and clean. I lifted the scarf, pressed it to my face, and closed my eyes. Tomorrow I would step into that interview with the bronze key in my pocket, not as proof of what I left behind, but as a reminder of what I would never return to. The rent they demanded was gone, but I had already paid something far greater, the price of freedom.